you can see, I've got my pattern fully completed now. So I've got my 3 sections, I've done to the full horizontal length, and I've done 6 rows alternating the colours here. So this is me kind of, I've done this whole kind of middle section here, and I've left my 2 rows at the right hand side and my 2 rows at the left and my 1 row at the top and bottom. So that's really key, and you're not going wild and stitch into those rows there. So now what we're going to do is called squaring off. We're basically going to square our design down to the bottom and up to the top, and you do have to take a bit more care about the length of your stitches. So you can look on here, or just kind of, once you get into the rhythm of it, you'll know what you're doing. So I've looked at my chart, I've noticed that blue is the colour I'm next need to use to start squaring off the bottom here. So I've threaded up my blue yarn just as before. So I'm just going to come into this hole here in the same hole as the red yarn like before. Again, they're all sharing a box. And I'm going to have my tail and I'm going to stitch over that like we've always been doing. Now, this is the first time that we've come across a stitch that's not 4 threads. So this stitch is actually 2 threads. You can see here I've got 1 thread, 2 thread, and I'm going into this hole here because I'm squaring it off. I'm never going into this row at the end here, but I'm squaring it off to that row there. So I'm going to go ahead and do a 2 thread stitch here. And then I'm going to do another one right next to it, again going into the same hole there as the red. And now I think we're back to 4 stitches now, but as we get closer and closer in here, they'll become more and more different sizes, so you do have to pay attention. But I think we're back to the normal thread length, so this one's a 4 thread, just like we were doing before. So we're kind of back to our pattern now. Going back in here. I'm counting my 4, 1, 2, 3 into the 4th. So I'm going to carry on this pattern, and I will show you in a second how to kind of get from here to here into this next box once I've got there. So I'm just going to go ahead and finish off this little bit now. So I finished off this first little section of my squaring off, and now we need to get from here to this little box here. So instead of just kind of laying this along the back here, we're going to run our thread behind these red stitches like this, and that will just keep that nice and neat in the back there, and then you can just carry on squaring off as normal. So I've finished squaring off with the blue here. I'm going to finish this little section with the pink, so you can see that this full section here is pink. So as before, I'm just going to come into the same square as the blue thread's already in there, bring it. Now, the kind of rule of thumb, is you're going for 4 threads unless you can't fit 4 threads in, and then you're just going up to this line here, but you're leaving this end row blank. So I have a 2 thread there, now I have a 4 thread. Now in this middle one is quite long, and it'll be a big thread and it might get a bit baggy. So what we've done, I don't know if you can see this, is we've kind of divided this middle one. So this is only kind of an anomaly. So we've got a 4 and then a 2 thread, and then it goes back to 4 and back to 2. So I'm going to do my 4, hang on. Go. So going in, 4. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come on the back here, instead of going obviously back in there and it would just pop out, I'm going to come down to the bottom here. So I'm coming through here. This is the only kind of funny one. Back through here. Back through that hole where your pink already is. So that's a bit of a funny one. Other than that, you're back to just 4 thread. And a 2 thread. And then same as before, obviously we need to jump to the next section, which is over here. So what we're going to do is flip it over, run our needle along behind here, and then bring it out at our next section, ready to start this section. So go ahead and fill in these sections, square off the top here as well. You've got all your patterns here if you do get lost, but basically you're doing 4 threads unless you can't, and then you're doing as many as you can up to the line, making sure you've got that end row at the top free at all times. So go ahead and do that, and I will see you in the next video to turn your Bargello into a plant pot.